And we are live.
Well, hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday, happy hump day from your team over at the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico today. The weather is amazing. And speaking of amazing weather, today we have amazing leaders from our region. Here in the Southwest, and we're so anxious to get to them and get speaking with them. But before we get started, we want to do a little bit of housekeeping. My name is Shannon Hawkins. I'm the Director of Membership, Sponsorship Events, all fun stuff at the Chamber. And we have a pretty distinguished panel today that we get to share some really great ideas and best practices, and we even have a special guest with us on the panel today. So before we get to that, I want to thank our sponsors, New Mexico Mutual. This webinar series, our entire month of May, is made possible because of New Mexico Mutual. And of course, our partners, our tech partners, the amazing elves behind the curtain, as I like to call them, at New Mexico Tech. We can't do this without you. We appreciate you guys. And just lots of fun stuff we're going to talk about today in regards to best practices. So we're just going to jump right on in. And the first thing I want to do is I want to have the panel introduce themselves so that you guys get to know what states that we're working with and a little bit about this project. So I'm going to hop over to Ernie Sitabaca, our president and CEO, to just share with us his invited guest today.
Well, thank you, Shannon. I'm excited. We meet about every 2 weeks. Is Region 2. I'm fortunate to be the USHCC director for Region 2. And I tell you what, I just always enjoy getting together and talk to these guys because you hit it right, Shannon. These are leaders in the communities there. And they really know how to help the community in need and get things going. So I'm honored to do it. As I said, I represent the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I'm just going to float it to the next person, whoever you think, and we're just doing introductions. But I'm really excited about today because it's always fun to talk to these people.
I'll roll in a circle. So I'm going to start. We're going to move over to Monica.
Good morning. Thank you so much for letting me join you. I'm Monica Villalobos, and I serve as president and CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome from Phoenix, Mr. Joe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Aldaz. I am the president of the Colorado Springs Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome, Joe. Stephen.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephen Trujillo. I'm the president and CEO of the Latino Chamber of Commerce here in Pueblo, Colorado. Pleased to join everybody on the line, and a special thank you to Ernie and to Shannon and the entire team for hosting this today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen, our neighbor up north. Isabel, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Isabel Georgelis. I am the interim president and CEO of Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome, Isabel. Santos.
Hello, everyone. This is Santos Arroyo, board member of the Utah American Latino Chamber of Commerce, and today speaking on behalf of our founder, Michelle Garcia.
Welcome. Leroy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to everybody. My name is C. Leroy Cavazos Reina. I'm your Vice President of Government and International Affairs for the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to our board member, Ernie Sitabaca, and all our Region 2 presidents for convening this important call. The USHCC is proud to represent the interests of 4.7 million Hispanic-owned businesses across the United States who combined contribute $800 billion to the U.S. economy.
Thank you so much. And really excited to hear from our next guest, our little surprise guest, Mr. Mark Madrid. Can you please introduce yourself and share with us for a minute what you do?
It's an honor to be here. I'm energized to be here and excited. So thank you for the invitation. I'm Mark Madrid, CEO of the Latino Business Action Network. LBAN is our acronym, and we collaborate with Stanford University to champion the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. Our 3 pillars are research, so backbone of data, then a scaling program for entrepreneurs that are Latino and Latina at a certain stage in their businesses. And our third is an ecosystem development of thriving and scaled Latino and Latina companies across the United States and Puerto Rico. Great to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. We are super excited to have you on, and we'd like to just kind of start with you because it's just a fun way to get the program rolling, because right now in the time that we're in with COVID and all this crazy way that we've had to adjust to this new way of life, new normal, whatever we want to call it. And so many business owners, Latino business owners and small business owners around the country are affected. And so if you could just start off by talking about your program and ways that this program is going to be addressing some of these COVID or possible future pandemic issues.
Well, thank you for the question. I've never seen the community, it's risen up through catastrophes, through the Great Recession, but never seen anything like the embodiment of resilience and ganas that our Latino and Latina entrepreneurs have during this time of crisis. They proceed with their business with a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, but they proceed with resilience. And so we're delighted that we offer a scaling program at Stanford Graduate School of Business for those businesses that earn over $1 million of annual gross revenues. And so our capacity for that program, which we run twice a year, is 80 entrepreneurs. And just to give you a sense of the resilience of our Latino and Latina entrepreneurs, we have 75 scaled Latino and Latina entrepreneurs enrolled right now in our spring cohort. In the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of securing their way and navigation through the PPP process, in the middle of dealing with their employees and their family unions and working remotely. So we feel strongly that that is a feel-good story for our community. And I look forward to sharing with this group their journey as they have just started the last 2 weeks and will graduate from this program on July 11th. And we're already setting our sights for our 10th cohort that starts in October and graduates in December. We've had in this process, and we need, as a group, we need to lift up what we call those COVID-19 rock stars and superheroes, because we have plenty of those stories. We have alumni in our scaling program who have produced millions of N95 masks. We have some of our entrepreneurs that are working with seed investors, venture capitalists on actual antiviral therapies. We have people in the food industry that are transforming their businesses from a B2B operation to a business to consumer operation. Those who are evolving and reimagining their businesses into an e-commerce arm so that they can diversify their portfolio of goods and services. So, but I say that as well because there's still a lot of pain and there's still a lot of hurt. And so we need to work together to highlight those success stories while we reach to all the businesses that don't know the day of tomorrow. But there's a lot of good news, and there's a lot of family and community. And there's nothing like the Latino or Latina community to bring out that spirit. So thanks for the question.
Thank you so much, Mark. And we're gonna have a few more questions for you, but we really appreciate that. It's a great segue to start our conversation today, because so many businesses are being affected. Obviously, every business is affected in some way, shape, or form. And so we thought that it would be really great to talk about some best practices regionally and what some of the other chambers are experiencing with their group of members. And, I think we're going to probably go ahead and start with Ernie on this question, but I think that it's important that we share some of that and we learn from each other a little bit to see what we can do and what works for our city and our community. So Ernie, please start us off with something that you can share with the community, if you will, that we've been doing at the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
So thanks, Shannon. And all I can say is, what aren't we doing? It's amazing how busy we are, and some of the great, the one thing this pandemic has done is made people think way more, I think more creatively. I think we're thinking more creatively how we can communicate with our businesses, our members, and even our non-members, how we can help our small businesses, how we can help the frontline people that are risking, so much time and possibly their lives, and help and save everybody here. So yeah, I mean, we immediately jumped on stuff, and we started a webinar series that was actually sponsored by Square, and we did that to inform and to have dialogue so people could, really feel what other people are experiencing and listen to best practices and ask questions of people that are in the know. And we did that for 16 straight days, I believe 15 or 16 straight days. And then we did it again, and that we're in the middle of another one sponsored by New Mexico Mutual. And I tell you what, there's so much to talk about. There's so many things to do. We entered into agreement with the Duke City Gladiators, a professional football team here, indoor football team. They've won it 2 years in a row, their league, and they needed something to do. And so we had restaurants that need to sell stuff. And we have a restaurant, Twisters, that has 350 employees and has not laid off one employee. And so we wanted to help them get their food out and try to get some revenue. So we have great members, individuals throughout our membership in the community that are willing to pay for that food, have it delivered by the Duke City Gladiators, together with PepsiCo. And who else is involved in that?
KRQE,
our news, yeah.
Next Star Media Group, yeah.
And when you go out to see them on the front lines and the people that receive this, I mean, they're in tears. They just love the fact of getting acknowledged. So we're doing a great thing. We're keeping the Duke City Gladiators busy. We're doing Twizzlers a favor. Now it's Central Grill. So we're doing things like that. And I tell you what's really cool about this time is there's so many good ideas, and no idea is a bad idea, because it's always meant to help small businesses. You're not doing anything else but to help small businesses. So I'll be quiet from there. I'll let, maybe we'll want to let Leroy say a few things, because he's way back east. And,
I actually thought that was kind of funny, because the appearance of being back east, but I heard through the grapevine he's actually our neighbors, right? South of us.
That's true. That's true.
Leroy, please share not just locally in your community, but what's going on with the USHCC.
So as you all know, and thank you so much, Ernie, the USHCC has been hard at work with our partners nationally and advocating for our more than 250 Hispanic chambers across the country. Basically, right now, we're following what's happening on Capitol Hill. Act that passed the House of Representatives last Friday. We know it's going to significantly change once the Senate gets a hold of it. And right now, everybody is negotiating. We are happy to see that there is an inclusion on both the House and the Senate side for 501c6s, which is something that the USHCC, along with all our chambers, have vigilantly been fighting for, to make sure that 501c6s can get access to this type of funding. And right now, what we're mirroring is, now we're going into a phase of, we got legislation and we got it passed. We're about to release an advocacy deck that shows all our progress. So be on the lookout for that on our website. Ernie and the Government Affairs Committee is vetting it this afternoon at our Government Affairs Committee meeting so that it can be published. But now that we have legislation, ladies and gentlemen, it's about following the dollars. So now we shift from legislative advocacy to advocating with government agencies and America's largest financial institutions to follow this money, making sure that Latino and Hispanic-owned businesses across America are getting our fair share. We saw a big advance with the last legislation that was passed and the $30 billion allocation that went to community development institutions and to minority depository institutions. While that is a big advance in granting our community access to these funds, there's still a lot more work to be done. There's a lot more work to be done in the sense of making sure that those CDFIs and MDIs have more capital to lend. There's work to be done in transparent reporting on behalf of SBA and Treasury and America's largest banks to make sure that Latinos are getting these loans. And there's advocacy to be done. I'm sure all of you all follow the news on here, that a lot of major corporations are returning PPP money, and making sure that if there's corporations who are returning that money out of goodwill to Treasury, or who felt that they got it and they don't need it, that money is funneled back to small businesses. There are 30 million small businesses in this country who are and comprise the economic vibrancy of America. And so we got to make sure that any type of resources that we have access to get to them to continue functioning and operating, that we divert those resources to them. So those those are the three things that we're focused on: is the next legislative package, 501c6 funding, transparent reporting, following the dollars and where they're going, and making sure that our small business owners, with an emphasis on the Hispanic business community, have the technical assistance and resources that they need to keep their doors open and economically recover the way that they deserve to.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the technical side of things, because we are living in a new space right now. So definitely want to come back to that in a minute, because I'm positive that all of the chambers around the country and the region are facing that same problem. So we're going to move over to Monica, who is on my left side. And Monica, if you could just share with us something that you guys are doing with the Arizona Hispanic Chamber, and what you guys are doing in the community.
Sure, absolutely, Shannon, and thank you again for this opportunity. We know that in Arizona, there are 500,000 small businesses. We're a small business state. 98% of all jobs come from small business. We know about 125,000 of those are Latino-owned businesses. We also know that the largest segment of business growth has been with Hispanic women-owned businesses. And between 2007 and 2012, when all firms in Arizona only grew about 2%, it was minority-owned businesses that grew 60%, Hispanic-owned businesses grew 70%, and Hispanic women-owned businesses that grew 116%. So for us, it's really been mission critical to make sure that we can help these businesses scale. As soon as the pandemic hit, very early on, we recognized that government funding was simply not going to trickle down soon enough. And we sprung into action and created the AZHCC Small Business Success Grants. In the first 2 weeks, we were able to distribute $100,000 to over 65 businesses. And the idea was to create a safety net or a bridge to be able to get traditional lending. What we wanted to avoid was the desperation as the weeks went by for these small businesses to go to predatory lenders. And so we really wanted to create that safety net. So the idea was to provide $1,000 a week for 6 weeks to provide technical assistance, as we discussed, also other resources, workshops, developing pivot strategies for these companies, as well as preparing their financials for traditional funding. Right now, we already know that in Arizona, there's a huge disparity between minority-owned businesses and non-minority-owned businesses. In average annual revenue, minority-owned businesses make about $110,000 in Arizona, non-minority about $500,000. So we already had that gap. The reason that's important is because those minority-owned businesses aren't able to scale. They're not able to sustain a long recession, much less a pandemic like we're experiencing now. So we were very fortunate to be able to partner with the largest Hispanic CDFI in the country, Raza Development Fund. They served as our third-party validator, and they were able to create for us sort of an underwriting system, if you will, to validate these businesses and turn money around quickly. That was the biggest part. From application to distribution, we're looking at about 5 days maximum, and being able to get that into the hands of these small business, minority-owned businesses was absolutely critical. We know that so far we've impacted, as I mentioned, over 65 businesses, over 500 employees. We know that these businesses are doing what they've always done, which is bootstrapping. And our message to our members has been, do not wait for government funding. Do not wait to be saved. We will do what we always do, which is get through this with community support. And that's really been our emphasis over the last few weeks.
Thank you so much, Monica. I was taking notes like crazy. That's a very exciting initiative and project, and I can't wait to hear a little more. I did reach out to Angie a little while back when we started with the webinars, and I kept missing her, but we love staying in touch with you guys and seeing what you're doing in Arizona. So congratulations, that's really exciting. Let's move down to Joe. He's right here next to Monica. And Joe, if you could kind of start us off a little bit about what you guys are doing in Colorado Springs.
Sure. A lot of our major focus is on collaboration and partnering. We're all in this together, so we are partnering with our like chambers here in Colorado Springs to leverage our resources. And as you know, working in this virtual world, we can have a broader reach to more of the community and our membership. So we focused on that, and we are developing several different series for our community and our membership. One of the series that we've partnered with the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center is what we call our Minority Informed series, where we are going to take a deep dive into diversity and inclusion in small business and what that looks like. I think that's a challenge within our community. We understand diversity, but we have a very difficult time on the inclusion piece of that part. Also developing a series called our On Value Speaker Series. It's going to be a series of 6 national speakers who are going to speak about leadership and character and its impact on business. We're finding out, or we think that as we emerge from this, knowing that there's going to be restrictions and guidelines on business, that we're going to probably have to sacrifice some revenue to meet the parameters of conducting business. So we want to ensure that our business leaders and our small business owners know that you need to perform ethically your business, and you also have to exhibit a certain leadership and not cut corners to make money, because I think that will have an impact. And then we are also collaborating with our local minor league baseball team here, the Rocky Mountain Vibes. They have a large stadium, not sure that they're going to be able to have a minor league baseball. So we are collaborating with them and going to begin working on coming to the movies, because they have a very large video screen that they're going to be hosting movies. They're going to have about 140 cars that can enter the stadium and watch a movie during the summer. And so we're looking to collaborate and promote their work that they're doing for our community. And then, as we know, we were very focused on business, and that's what we do as chambers of commerce. But I think we need to add have an outlet for our members and our community at large to just relax and enjoy something. So what we've developed 2 different series. One is called Cocktails and Conversation. And it's going to be a series where we bring in an athlete, a sports figure, or an entertainer, and we moderate just a discussion on their life and their work in the particular industry. Our first event's going to be June the 5th, and we are happy to announce that we will have Isai Morales of La Bamba fame on our first Cocktails and Conversation. And then we're going to follow that up on a series of 4 events on a Friday evening, and we're calling that the Hispanic Chambers An Evening With. And that is going to be a series of entertainment events of which we bring in national recording artists to live stream a 1-hour show for us. Our second event will be on June 19th. We are going to have a live show with a national smooth jazz recording artist, Tony Exum Jr., which happens to be a resident here of Colorado Springs. So we know that, we can be focused on business, but we want to be able to bring an outlet to just enjoy yourselves as you wind down the week. And we thought that would be a great fit. And we can reach a large, broad audience in doing so.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's exciting to see everything you guys are doing. And you're right. Sometimes thinking outside the box brings in not just people that are not members, organizations that are not members, but for them to see what we do in the community. And you never know, potentially getting new members into the organization. So that's really exciting. We're going to move down to Isabel. So if you could share with us a little bit about what you guys are doing and some of the initiatives and programs that you've been working on the last couple months.
Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be with this incredible panel. We get so much from each other each week. Along with everything that's already been shared, I think one of the things we're seeing right now is when you say pivot, what can we do? And since the onset, we've been tracking the information that we're getting, the requests we're getting. And what we saw right away is that our community had very successful businesses, but we learned through the process that maybe we took some shortcuts. And so we shifted immediately to how do we help you, number one, get educated, and then what are the primary things you need to do now? And that is register your business, set up a bank account, and set up proper accounting measures so that you can go forward, be successful. The other thing that we're finding is that because of COVID, our community is starting their own businesses from home. So now we have this additional opportunity. Again, we are very resourceful. So again, we're providing resources and programming to help these businesses get started correctly. As Joe and others have said, collaboration is key. So we are partnering with the city of Tucson, with other community leaders to provide information and make it accessible. And part of what we're doing is engaging through webinars, through Facebook Live, and of course, in-house resources through Zoom. Because what's really important is to help our community continue to engage and stay connected. So not only leveraging our resources, but offering them to community members so that they can come together and have a forum to share information, because that's what's key, is getting the information out and helping our community stay educated and informed on what are the resources, what are next steps, and move forward. We are a resilient community. We have to tap into that and get people inspired and excited to keep moving forward. We can't stay still. And I love what Monica said, is don't wait to be saved. You've got to do it yourself. And this is how we're doing it.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And you are right. You know, the technology piece, we go back to that again, it's super important. A lot of businesses weren't prepared for this. So that's something all chambers have had to get on top of. Let's hop over to Stephen, our neighbor up north from Pueblo. Please share with us what you guys have been up to.
So again, it's a pleasure to be on the line with everybody here this afternoon, and I echo all the comments of my colleagues. We, like everybody here, as soon as all of this started hitting, our team got together and really started to ask the question, what does our operation now need to look like to continue to support our members? Obviously, we all know being in the chamber industry, it's about value, it's about benefit, you know, through all of the programs and through all of the resources we provide. So our work really dug into how do we now ensure that businesses have access to those things now in this digital world, since there was a stay-at-home order here within the state of Colorado. So as a result of that, these had been some conversations that our staff has already been having about different opportunities that we were going to pursue. A lot of those were accelerated. And what I'm happy to say, and very proud of my team, our organization, from our board of directors to our staff and our ambassadors and volunteers, that essentially within 2 to 3 weeks, we stood up our entire virtual strategy. So we pivoted the entire chamber and how we do our business into that virtual world, utilizing platforms like Zoom, utilizing our partnerships. We have a wonderful partnership with an entity here in Pueblo, Goal High School, and they're a virtual high school essentially. So they have these infrastructure pieces. They have been gracious in allowing us to, you know, utilize that expertise to bring information to our members. And really, a lot of that started with just making them aware of what are these programs, what are the questions that they may have, and where should those go. You know, resources that maybe a business was not as familiar with before, but really now during this COVID-19 really needed their help and support. And so we went, you know, hard to work at that right away. And so right now where we stand is everything that we do as a chamber is essentially now virtual. We conducted the very first virtual ribbon cutting here in our community. We're preparing for another one here in a couple of weeks as a way to highlight a business that was still operating, had just opened their doors, and certainly want to make sure that our community knew how to support them. We hosted our first virtual Latino Supremo coffee break just last week. Later next week on Friday, we will be hosting our very first virtual luncheon. It's going to be focused on the state of higher education here in Pueblo and Southern Colorado. So our two institutions of higher education will be joining us for that conversation. So these are the ways that we are able to still deliver that value of networking, still deliver that value of partnerships to our members, now just in a different way. And ultimately, when you look at this, this has allowed us as a chamber, thinking 6 months down the road, these are options that we can continue to offer to our members. So whatever platform they may be operating in, especially if it's an e-commerce type of business that may have started up during this COVID-19, we now have the infrastructure and the platforms to be able to support them and ensure that our community and our global community is aware and can help them as well. One of the other things that we also did in response to the COVID-19 stay-at-home is realizing that a lot of what we did through our portals and through our membership systems here with the Latino Chamber for our members was something that we wanted all of our businesses to have access to. So our membership team developed and deployed a 90-day courtesy membership. So any business across the county of Pueblo and in Southern Colorado can join the Latino Chamber, not only take advantage of all the member benefits that we have through our website and other things, but more importantly, as we've looked at it, bring their voice to the table to ensure that when we're having conversations like this or at other levels, that we have that understanding and knowledge of what it is we need to be doing as a chamber here in Southern Colorado to support them so that they can thrive and so that they can grow and overcome this together. You know, the PPP program may not be for every business, and that's okay, but it's important that we have those voices at the table and understand what may apply to them and how are we going to ensure that we help them get there. And one of the last initiatives that I'll mention that we're extremely proud of is our Latino Chamber helped to lead an initiative called the Business Economic Recovery Team. This is just about 20 different agencies that have partnered, all of the chambers in our county, our city, our county governments, our workforce center, our school districts, our institutions of higher education, and I'm sure there's a few more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but all of these entities coming on to this virtual meeting like this every week, talking about what are our initiatives, what are our steps to not only restore our economy, but to take us further as it relates to Pueblo and to Southern Colorado. We right now have deployed a number of seminars that you could see on all of our Facebook pages. We have a weekly session with SBA where they answer questions about the PPP or anything else. Today, we just did one. Every Wednesday at 8:30, we conduct those. We've got more coming up. So our economic recovery team has also developed their own subcommittees that are working on all of these initiatives. And the next step that we're now taking is putting together a comprehensive economic recovery plan for our community, from small business, minority business, women-owned, veteran-owned, all the way up to manufacturing, and what that looks like and what we all have to do in terms of our part to see to it that we restore our community. And on the last couple of weeks, I heard it put best, and I apologize to whoever may be tuning in from the Pueblo area. I don't know who the original author of this quote was, but it's one that has stuck with me. And they said, we're not so much interested as going back to normal as we are forward to better. And let's use this as an opportunity to establish that for our community. So we have been extremely busy, extremely active. We have told our members in our community that, while these changes have happened, our Latino Chamber has remained open for business, conducting business, working hard on behalf of our members, as we always have, to navigate these areas here. And to certainly just tell everybody, we had to tap into that entrepreneurial spirit. That's what we see day in and day out. And we had to be creative and innovative. And certainly there's power in collaboration, there's power in sharing, and ultimately there's power in education and understanding. So thank you again for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much for that information. But before I move forward and forget, can you please repeat that quote for everybody that's writing it down one more time?
If I understand it correctly, it's not back to normal, forward to better.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm going to do my homework and find out who the author of that was. So I'm going to make a note, because that is one that has stuck with me. So
no, I think that's very powerful. And the first time you hear it, it makes you think. And the second time I heard it, it really makes sense. So thank you so much for that. And that's definitely part of something we definitely want to share with our membership. Santos, you happen to be in my far corner right. So we'd love to hear what you guys have been up to in your neck of the woods there.
Yes, on behalf of our founder, Michelle Garcia, here in Utah, we have been putting a lot of effort in keeping our Hispanic workforce informed and healthy. We believe that in order to assist our small businesses, we need to be able to provide the necessary test kits and masks and gloves that our community needs to stay healthy. So our founder have been reaching working agreement with several companies as AMK and 3M we have, unfortunately, here in Utah, the Hispanic community is one of the groups considered at high risk right now. We account for 37.9% of the state's cases, while encompassing just 14.2% of the population. So it's unfortunate that, yeah, our Hispanic community here is suffering more due to, we believe, and we've been teaming up with some of the health organizations locally here to bring more testing to our underserved communities. If we can help our Hispanic workforce stay healthy, our businesses will benefit as well. We have been working with our local elected officials to address this situation. And of course, using social media and all the channels that the Chamber have to offer, we've been promoting our small businesses and letting people know when they're open, and to use, safety when they go to these establishments, and keep social distancing and follow all our rules locally and statewide. So that's what we've been doing here in Utah. Pretty much is assisting our workforce, because we have a big situation among our Hispanic community, and we believe it's, sometimes it's trust issues based on your citizenship status, and sometimes our community do not want to come and get tested. So we need to address this, I believe, nationwide, and let our community know, please come to the sites that we're opening and get tested. And that's what we have to report for today from the state of Utah.
Thank you so much, Santos. And I think that is important, just to make note that we're all in this together, and everybody needs to feel safe out there in opening their doors and conducting business. So I believe you're right. And as a matter of fact, here at the Hispano Chamber, we are working on an initiative in collaboration with the city, and we'll be hopefully serving about 1,000 small businesses late next week with those much needed safety supplies for them to be able to open. So it's very, very important for everybody to feel that, and of course the community to feel safe walking into an establishment. So we're excited about that. Thank you, Santos, for that info. So I have a couple of questions. We'll kind of just go around, and anybody that has the answers, shout it out, or whatever you'd like to jump in. But we have some interesting questions that, maybe as leaders, you guys might be able to fill in and see if we can put this out there. So one of the topics is, how do you guys see networking events? Now, we're all a membership-based organizations, and actually Mark is right involved in the middle of this because of the Stanford program. But how do you guys see your chamber moving forward with networking events? Not so much the big events, we're going to talk about that, but just getting people comfortable back into that space. And will you be going back to that in-person networking events? And we could start with Leroy. He's the one right next to me on my right.
Well, that's a great question, Shannon. I think that people are going to have to find a new normal when it comes to networking events. I know for sure that for the United States Hispanic Chamber, we're going to take a lot of things virtually now. I know that our legislative summit, we want to do a virtual one during the summer, and it's just going to be something that I think people are going to fall in line with. A lot of people going forward are going to really question whether an in-person meeting it has merit, whether coming in close contact with a big audience, more than 50 people, has merit, whether getting on a plane and flying to Washington, D.C. to do advocacy on Capitol Hill is better than having 5 congressmen on a Zoom call with a very targeted agenda of our legislative asks. So I think that those are things that we're all going to face as we begin to reopen America. But we also need to understand that at some point, we're going to need that physical contact and go back to a little bit of what we've been used to. We're Latinos after all.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that's going to be the general consensus, but I sure would love to hear from other chamber presidents. Have you guys put a plan in place? Has it been discussed? What are you thinking? I know here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber, we're probably looking at a month or two before we even consider that. So we've have a robust online virtual networking platform that we're doing once a week, but we'd love to hear what you guys are doing.
Shannon, I can share a little bit if I may. As I mentioned earlier, we obviously pivoted all of our events, like especially just focusing on the network. And that was one of the key pillars of our membership base. And one of the top reasons why organizations would join our association. And so in pivoting and obviously doing it, through this online platform, and I know I've certainly had the challenge of that. I'm a hugger, so I would stand at the door and greet all of our members and give them a hug. And so this has been different, but the point of it and at the heart of it was the relationship. And that's what our team and I have discussed, is that it's important that we facilitate and assist businesses still establishing the relationship, whether that's done in person, whether that's done virtual, whether that's just done through a simple email introduction. We owe it to our members to ensure that that piece remains. Now, we are closely monitoring the state as things begin to open up more and look at, to what extent can we have public gatherings. So our discussion has been, if and when we are able to host those in-person types of activities again, seeing as how we've built this platform and this online capability to share, we want to go ahead and maintain that. And we can offer a hybrid system, if you will. And ultimately, what I believe that allows us to do is to put into the hands of our members that choice as to how they feel comfortable with engaging. If they would like to join that in-person activity that's taking place, then they have every opportunity to do so. We as a Latino Chamber will continue to ensure that we follow every guideline to ensure the safety of our members, first and foremost. And number two, if they don't necessarily want to be in person in the room, then we still want to do our due diligence to ensure that the benefit of that connectivity and that relationship is now in the digital world, and that we offer both. And it really just becomes a choice that the member can choose as to how they not only engage, but they take advantage of that benefit. But this has enabled us to expand that offering and do that. And so that's where we are today. I see us going back for sure to in-person things, hopefully sooner rather than later. But nonetheless, when we do, this has proven to be another way by which that connection and that message can live on after the activity. And we'll continue to offer that to our members moving forward as well.
So I want to just really quick jump in because I know Leroy might have to leave us in a few minutes. So while you're still on, we want to say thank you for being here and thank you for sharing, from the USHCC. So if we see Leroy disappear in just a bit, it's because he's very busy and is on to the next call. But Mark, yes, you had your hand up, and I definitely want to know what you guys are doing.
Oh, well, thank you for the question. I think we have to embrace this challenge to host virtual events and not think of it as, oh my gosh, are the sponsors going to go for this? So you have to sell it. I know that we're all sellers here, right? One way that we've found success is never forget who you're serving. In our case, it's Latino and Latina entrepreneurs. So what we've been doing is using the breakout rooms, and they love it. So I would say become masters of the breakout rooms. You can do them randomized, really become Zoom superstars and rock stars. Anytime Zoom has a session, go and learn the new things that are happening there. So the networking has been accomplished that way. And I think there's also a way to engage sponsors. It's gonna take a while, but be that pleasant stalker and convince them that where's their money really supposed to be going? Yes, because they like the recognition. But where's their money supposed to be really going is education impact programs. It's about access to capital. It's about technical assistance. So find the balance and make it appealing for them as well, and lift up the opportunity of access, because you're actually accessing more people, and you're accessing more people and their teams. So what the sponsors really want to see is they want to see actual small business owners in these sessions. So if you can bring on the teams along with the entrepreneurs, the founders, the CEOs as well, in the cases that those are the scenarios, then all the better. As well, think about those solo entrepreneurs. A predominance of our Latino and Latinx entrepreneurs and Latina entrepreneurs are me, myself, and I. Now they have the opportunity that they didn't have before. They couldn't attend that luncheon or that gala in some cases. because they were the only one running that business. So I think that we embrace these opportunities, leverage the art of networking through the breakout rooms, and to sell it. Those would be the suggestions that I have.
Shannon, if I may, I when I'm listening to everybody and I think about the hybrid nature of what our life is going to look like in the next now and forever, I think about how we used to have conference calls. Nobody does conference calls anymore, right? Because we can do the Zoom. And so we did improve conference calls by actually being able to see who you're talking to. Because you know how the conference call was, people didn't know if they're interrupting one another and it was all kind of jumbled mess. So I think, that's going to be a hybrid. I do think that it is important, especially for our culture, that we see each other. It's not just on a screen here, that we really mingle, because that's where we do our best work. And as much as how good this is, it's still not as good as when you're with somebody and you see somebody else and all of a sudden you introduce that person to that person and there's a connection made. And, you can't replace that with Zoom, breakout rooms or anything. You really can't. It's those kind of connections is what the chambers are really good at. When you're talking to somebody, said, "Oh, here's the guy you need to talk to or the woman you need to talk to right here." You can't do that on Zoom. So I think there is a hybrid nature to it, but I do think this beats the heck out of conference calls. I love seeing everybody's faces instead of just wondering who's going to speak next. So.
Well, Ernie, something that's really exciting about this type of telecommunication, video communication is that, employees, you presidents and leaders in your organizations, you guys are still figuring out how to engage with your employees every day and figuring out how they're engaging with their members every day. What Zoom does, and Google Hangouts and, whatever your Skypes and all the different ones that we've been using all along is, you get up, you go to work every day, even if it's to your living room, you get ready, you do those things every day because you never know who you're going to have to be in front of. So I think that is a total positive. You can also record conversations. You can go back and share them. And, on telephones, you don't always have that capability. If I can't remember Stephen's quote, I can rewind the video back. I mean, there's a lot of positives to this type of communication. So thank you, Mark and Ernie, for bringing that up. Okay, guys, so expanding, I want to stay in the event realm because I know that revenue for a lot of chambers comes from their events. And so we know we've had the discussion here, but I would love to have somebody tackle the next question, which is, how do you plan to move forward with your signature events, with your galas, with your award ceremonies, the ones that really do require that? And Leroy, maybe you have a minute before you jump off. I'm not sure where the USHCC is on this, but what are the plans, and say before the end of the year through December?
So right now we are really looking at taking a lot of stuff virtually. I think that for the rest of 2020, we're going to see that kind of be the new norm. I will say I'm very impressed with a lot of companies out there who have reacted very quickly to taking things into virtual spaces, and very interactive virtual spaces. I mean, to the point where we could pause from this Zoom call right now and go into what's called a networking lounge, and people can begin to chat with each other through a virtual chat room, kind of like in the old days, when you used to use chat rooms. So it's very based on topic. Obviously, that's how you were to, or also how people are disseminating information now and bringing back the old model of I don't know if those of you remember using message boards to disseminate information as part of these models. So kind of like, instead of walking around a convention hall and seeing different advertisements, it's more like message boards that while we're talking in this Zoom call, they automatically pop up to your screen as an advertisement. And then even virtual booths. Tomorrow, the USHCC is participating in our first virtual booth, where we're actually going to be part of a big procurement, a global procurement event, and people are going to be able to go to a website, click on the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and appear into a virtual booth similar to this Zoom call. And I'm going to be able to interact with them, and I'm going to have USHCC videos and information playing in the background on what the USHCC is currently doing. So I will say that while I want to be in contact with people physically, I will say that I'm very impressed at the technology out there that is being implemented to make sure that our cross-sectional interaction does not cease, and that the extension of our professional identities still makes it from sea to shining sea, and that we're still able to make big things happen. Because as you all know, we at the USHCC believe that small business and Hispanic business is big business. And so nothing's going to stop us from making that happen.
So thank you so much, Leroy. Anybody else? What are you guys planning to do for your larger events? Or let's even move into 2021. Again, I'm not familiar with all of your signature events, but how do you plan to move forward with the planning part of galas or award banquets, stuff like that? Anybody that wants to speak out on the panel?
This is Joe from the Hispanic Chamber of Colorado Springs. We made a conscious decision to cancel our in-person events for the remainder of the year. We had our signature event planned for the end of August, which was called La Vida 2020, an outdoor Latino culture event that we had partnered with a resort here in Colorado Springs. And as you know, our culture, we like to socialize and be connected and be close to each other. And that type of event, we said we can't do that even if it's a hybrid event and make it appear successful. But I think one of the key points we're looking at is how do we stay relevant, and how do we help other individuals and other companies maintain their brand in this type of environment. So as you've seen, you know, with our speaker series, our cocktails and conversation, our entertainment series, there's an opportunity for companies to have their brand on these live shows. And at the same time, as we're seeing in entertainment, we're already seeing artists collaborate together to push out live stream shows, because I think that's what the future is going to look like. As Stephen mentioned, it's going to be a hybrid type format, I think, now and forever. There, regardless of if we call what we say return to normal, there will be people say, I really just don't want to go out today, so I'm going to pay my registration fee and watch this virtually in the relaxation of my home. So I think we need to prepare for a hybrid environment and figure out how we leverage corporations and companies to continue to be sponsors of our event, because they're going to be able to reach a larger audience. When we stream our live shows that we're going to have in an Evening With series, we're going to send the information to all of our respective chambers in our region to say, push this out to your groups, because we have a larger reach that way. And now we can entice our sponsor to say, not only is your brand going to reach our audience here in our community, it's going to reach a larger audience across the region.
Yep.
So thank you so much for that, Joe. And you're right. I mean, that everybody from small business to organizations that support those small businesses, everybody's got to adjust. It is, as much as we hate to say that term, the new normal, it really is. It's just a different way. And, here we have 4 or 5 pretty big signature events a year, though probably nothing will take place for the rest of this year. We're starting to plan our 2021. So, I'm sure there will be further conversations with Ernie and you guys on your regular calls about that. But we appreciate that. Before we recap and close, I just want to ask you guys, one of the things that is really important is definitely something that Joe brought up, which is, being healthy and relaxation and, being leaders of and responsible and people small business owners depending on you during this time. That's a heavy load. Some chambers have a large membership and it's a lot of needs. So I'd love to hear from each one of you. What do you guys do to de-stress, and what are you doing to take care of yourselves? And what do you, how do you share that with the public so that everybody can learn from a leader today? Monica, we'll start with you.
I was afraid of that. Um,
Because you work all the time, you don't distress. I get it. I know.
I don't know that I'm a really good source. I take a lot of pride and joy from the work that we do. And I think that being able to really connect with our members and listen to their needs and be able to provide solutions is actually de-stressing for me, in that when you can provide solutions, you don't feel quite as stressed, right? When you're able to continue moving forward, that's absolutely critical. Aside from that is just hanging out with my 8 and 10-year-old boys who are always a source of humor, inspiration for me. So I'm sorry I can't speak more intelligently on the topic, but if somebody, has some good stress relieving mechanisms, please share them. I'd love to know what they are.
I love it. I love it. That's how we are here. It's our distressor. Joe, what do you do? What do you personally do? You're in Colorado. There's got to be something fun that you love to do.
Many of my virtual meetings are on my deck overlooking the Pikes Peak over coffee. So that's a de-stressor. But one of the things that we're finding out during this crisis, and the scientific research is telling us, we need to be outside and taking walks because our immune system is being suppressed by staying inside. So I take some long walks during the day with my wife. We're empty nesters, so we have the ability to do that. So, those long walks help you, de-stress, and it's going to help us get that vitamin D and those vitamins we need by being outside. And I think that's important for everybody, even our small business owners. They're telling us to stay inside sometimes, but the research and science tells us you need to be outside so your immune system stays strong.
Vitamin
Thank
D.
you. Thank you for that, Joe. We have a beautiful landscape as well here, and the whole Southwest does. And so it is nice to get out, at least on the weekends, and enjoy that now with spring coming up. Mark, what are you guys doing in the Bay Area? I got to know, California.
Well, I just want to remind everybody here that you got to take care of yourselves, even if you have 10 or 15 minutes. I wake up at 4:45 a.m. without fail every morning. And I take 15 minutes, make sure that those are for myself to plan a call with somebody that I love, or, when am I going to call my mom today? It could be this particular gym is open 24/7, right? So even if it's moving around for 15 minutes, there's all sorts of apps like Beachbody On Demand and so many others. There's gyms doing, aerobics classes, et cetera. So I think it's important to get the juices flowing. And just think about that one thing, because it's like when you're on the airline, if the oxygen masks deploy, it's important to put yours on first before you help everybody else.
Beach ball
so
body. It's
Yeah.
beach ball body on demand is what I've been watching.
Probably.
It's a short distance to the refrigerator all the time. So
Leroy, what are you doing? You're kind of held up in Texas, I hear. So tell us, what do you do to de-stress?
So basically for me, I've been very blessed that I am quarantined in Texas, and I'm quarantined at my parents'. I had not lived at home since 2006. So I left the Valley when I was 20 years old, and I headed off to Spain and then started my career in San Antonio. And so it's been interesting, but I'm very blessed because my de-stress is my mother's 3 home-cooked meals a day. And my ability to just walk out in the afternoons and take in her garden. She has a huge garden and they're always out there working. That's how they de-stress. So that's how I de-stress. And so it's been a blessing to be around them and to be able to spend some quality time here that I had not spent in the last 15 years.
Isn't it amazing how the things we never thought of prior to 2.5 months ago, and that time with family is so important. And of course, mom's home cooking. I second that all the way around. Stephen, what are you doing?
Well, the sopapillas aren't very good, here with quick access. So I would agree with others. You gotta limit. But certainly, like so many of my colleagues, we all know that in the chamber world, there's so many things, right? Our days sometimes would never end from one event to the other, whether it's our event or another one hosted. now being home, obviously there's been a tendency, and as you well know, it's easy for us to just keep going. You hear the computer going in the background, you hear those chimes. So, one of the things that I've done is, when I decide to close down for the day, like that's it, I turn the computer off, because if I don't, I hear that chime, in the other room, and I immediately want to run and see, well, what email was that? What is it? And so I think we have to set some of those hard boundaries for ourselves. And I agree with Mark and what others said, that if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of others, number one. Number two, I think it's also an opportunity, as I've heard people share about the things that they've done, and being able to go out on the back deck and enjoy a cup of coffee, or being able to go out in the garden with parents. I think it's an opportunity for us to pause for just a minute and also take notice of the blessings that we're surrounded with, every day, the things that we've sometimes taken for granted. That deck has always been there. We just never had a chance to really go out and do that, or, being with family. And so one of the things that I've done, even though we're, obviously social distancing, is, I'll just pull out the phone in the evening and kind of scroll through and look and say, who of my friends and family have I just not connected with lately? And then just hit FaceTime. And before you know it, we're on the phone call for half hour, 45 minutes, sharing some laughs. I have a good friend that's in, another state. I have a family member that's in some other states. And so just being able to connect like that. And I look at it and say, this opportunity was always here for me to do that. But I'd always say I was too busy, right? Going from this event to that event. So I think we just need to pause. We need to take a breath. And I do that with good music, good company, via the virtual world, and just going outside, enjoying that nature piece. That's been my way to just kind of decompress. So nothing like some good mariachi music in the back.
I was going to say thank you. And of course, you got to have good music, throw some mariachi in there. Santos, what are you guys doing up there in Utah?
Well, my routine is simple. Wake up in the morning with a daily prayer, open my laptop, work on it until I get tired. And usually the tired means my wife is knocking at me, telling me it's time to go on a bike ride or hiking, or, some kind of activity outside of the house. But in between, I like to go and check on my chickens and count my eggs, and be happy with nature in general. And my son always wants to play basketball, so I have a lot of distraction while I'm here at home. But it's good. It's good to be distracted at times, because, when you're dealing with the chambers and your members and all the sponsors and the commitments that you have to them, and especially now doing all these virtual meetings and trying to stay on top of this new big game, it gets frustrated. It gets nerve-wracking at times, because you have all this information coming to you in different directions, and you're trying to tap all of it at once, that at some point in time during the day, you need to just walk away and relax. And this is how we do in Utah. We go into the mountains, we go to the lakes, and we find something to do with family and friends.
Beautiful landscape where you are.
It's beautiful here.
Isabel, what are you doing?
Echoing some of what was shared, I definitely start from a place of gratitude every morning. We're just grateful. And like many parents, schedule is very, very important. I don't know, I'm sure everybody knows. I mean, we've been teachers and, leaders and everything else. So I'm very excited about this particular week, because it's the last week of my daughter's school. But I would say definitely scheduling. I think it's very easy to allow our days to just blur, like everybody shared. So I've been trying to stay very committed to a schedule that includes a walk, that includes, time for, just a minute to reflect or pause, because it's a lot. I think it's very easy because we're so resourceful, and I think many people, I'm surrounded by resilient people, to just keep going. But the truth is this is big. What we're experiencing is big. So finding those important things that can help us decompress. For me, it happens to be grilling. I have become a master griller, and it's perfect because we're outside. My whole family's with me. We can play basketball, or I can watch my daughter swim. I can put my feet in the water as, the salmon's grilling. I've become really good at salmon and tilapia, I have
Wow.
to say.
You're making me hungry.
To the point where my daughter is eating salmon and tilapia. Yay! So I've improved her diet with all of this grilling. So I would say that that's probably the key, is because we're so committed to our communities, and we're trying, as Santos said, we're trying to capture all the information and make sure we get it out and share and inform our communities. But we have to put the face mask on. And for me, it just happens to be having that time, that scheduled time that I know is my family time, my connected time, and also sharing it whenever I can. I share the beautiful mountains around me with my family and friends on Facebook. So, but yeah, that's been what helps me decompress and stay sane.
Well, we're going to get ready to close up and do just a second of recap. But before we do, Ernie, you have to share with us one thing that you do to de-stress. One thing.
Well, actually, what's really cool is I've been going on bike rides that I haven't, where I'm living now, it's differently where I've lived in the last 30 years. And just touring some of the old neighborhoods has been really a lot of fun for my wife and I to do. And it's really fun because there's not that much traffic. So you kind of feel safe on these roads than you wouldn't be before. But it really is about enjoying the outdoors and getting outside. And the pandemic is really bad, and we know that. But those silver linings that we just discussed, getting time to spend with your family that you normally don't, taking the time for going for a walk or a ride that you normally didn't have the time to, looking at the beautiful things that we have. Like you said, Stephen, we have so much that we all take that for granted. So I think it does give us a pause to do those things, and makes us appreciate those more. And I do get a chance to do that, but thanks for asking me. This has been great. I really appreciate everybody doing this. Thank you.
It's been great. I just want to do a really quick recap, because I think it's important that we always leave with a nugget of information, some best practices that we can share with our membership, and just what did we learn today. And so I think it's kind of a great way to sum up the last hour. So, Ernie talked at the very, very beginning when we opened up about being creative, how we've had to pivot strategies and figure out how we're going to be able to interact with our community moving forward. Leroy talked about technology. Everybody's talked about technology, and the importance of being able to communicate in the future means we all need to get technologically savvy, much more than we were 2 months ago. And that can lead to so many great things with friends and family outside of work. So that's so important. Monica spoke about a great program they were doing with funding. And I think that small businesses now more than ever need that support. And if there's any way that we can provide them that contact and those links and those resources, they still need to survive. So we still need to be making sure that small businesses have access to funding. Something Joe brought up that I thought was really exciting was ethics. How are we doing things now in a different world, and staying true to that? And he also brought up having fun. So I think it's a really great balance between all, working hard and showing the ethical character side of what we do, and having fun while doing it. So that was really neat. Isabel talked about staying connected. And I think it's really great that we are in the industry that we're in, because that's what this is about. This is about connections and resources, and how do we help people every single day. We're natural networkers. Ernie says it's really great when you're at a place to come together and go, oh, here's who you need to meet. But that happens at the grocery stores. It happens at the gas stations, because we're natural networkers by what we do. I really love that Stephen talked about the importance of collaboration. And I think that the only way to move forward in the future is to always find partners in what we do. We did the same thing here in Albuquerque, and finding partners for everything we do. It's a greater way to spread the word and share in the positivity that happens. And something that I love that Santos said was to stay healthy. And I think we talked about that here when we were closing up on the last question, because it's super important. So I want to say thank you to Mark for joining us last minute, Mark. I'm very excited to be working with you later in the year. I look forward to that a whole lot. And I want to say thank you to everybody on the panel. Leroy, I know you stepped in also last minute. So we appreciate you guys taking your time. This has been a lot of fun for the members to get to know you, for those members that maybe don't get to talk to you or walk in your office every day, even when we were open. And so I think that that's been great. And I really love all the notes that I got for sharing best practices. And I know that we'll be reaching out on some future projects together. It's been a pleasure getting to know you all. And we can't wait to see what happens in this region in the future. But I want to say thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, we will see you guys Friday for our next webinar, hosted and sponsored by New Mexico Mutual and our friends at New Mexico Tech. You guys have a great day, and we will see you Friday. Thank you, everybody.